Hey guys, Zane here with another One Take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Cloud Rat album, Threshold. Threshold is the latest studio album from grindcore project Cloud Rat, a group that have sort of been put on the grindcore map due to their DIY tendencies that have really made them stand out from the vast majority of their peers, along with their influences that come from straight up punk, crust punk, anarcho-punk, a bunch of different forms of punk and alternative metal that you don't necessarily expect to see in the more popular bands and artists of both metal and punk. And as such, Cloud Rat have really just become a notable act because they stand out from the crowd, and their latest studio album, Threshold, is really no different. There's a level of concentrated violence on Threshold that is very hard to come by, and even to some extent difficult to describe. It really does harken back to the level of ferocity that a lot of classic hardcore acts like Minor Threat and a lot of classic grindcore acts like Napalm Death really had in their prime, but at the same time, there's a sense of modernity and a sense of restraint about it that almost not necessarily takes it a step above the aforementioned acts because they are legends for reasons, but at the same time, definitely does give things a unique flavor throughout the entirety of Threshold that allows it to have a level of destructiveness and an aura of chaos overall, while still maintaining a level of structure that is at times lost in the midst of insanity from a lot of other grindcore projects. Threshold is composed of a lot of short song lengths, as well as you may expect from grindcore in general, if we're being totally honest, and the record itself is not quite, but almost 31 minutes long in length, which means this is just a blistering rage fest of a record overall, and it really does boost the album's quality a great deal. As with any grindcore album, each individual track here has a limited amount of immediacy to it. If you try and drag out something like grindcore to a longer extent, there is a good chance it will get dry, it'll just become kind of mindless and pointless. That's not necessarily to say that there are defined limitations to the genre or anything like that, but for a lot of artists in particular, there definitely are, even some of the more iconic acts of the subgenre and the whole grindcore movement and the movements that are associated with it. And in turn, Cloud Rat used Threshold as a means to just sort of get in and get out, doing their thing somewhere in between, and creating again a level of violence that is really rare and hard to come by in a genuine manner throughout a lot of the grindcore scene in the current day. A lot of other acts like Wormrot have definitely been arguably the similar kind of level of destructiveness and genuine destructiveness at that, but Cloud Rat have a level of other influences and things like that being put in that makes them stand out and feel like the legitimate DIY band that they want to present themselves as, while still managing to maintain a level of cohesion and a level of immediacy, as I stated before, that just really ultimately makes them stand out. And again, those shorter song lengths and a relatively short, but for grindcore standards, super long album length is really just something that takes them to the next level. Now, one of the biggest issues that grindcore or any subgenre of any primary genre with short song lengths that are kind of predictable in terms of length can have is that they can feel kind of haphazardly thrown together. You can just technically put together the same few chords and do a 40-second long song with some high-pitched screaming over it and say, here you go, it's grindcore, and you wouldn't be wrong, but it wouldn't be good either. But there really is a lot of attention to detail being put into Threshold, and one of the biggest details that I genuinely think really kind of helps make the album more than anything is the fact that this all sort of bleeds together from track to track. Even the shorter tracks, which are barely, maybe even less than a minute long, feel like they have an important role in the actual record itself, which is kind of difficult to pull off, but the way that every track kind of comes together into a singular experience results in Threshold being a sort of grindcore epic, which is really fantastic to hear overall. It's nice to hear, again, just a sense of cohesion throughout a record that is really based around a sound that is not necessarily known for cohesion. So overall, Threshold is a great record, and while it's not the most amazing grindcore album you will ever hear, it's definitely one of the primary highlights of the subgenre throughout the entirety of 2022 so far. I'm going to give this album 4 stars out of 5. My one take on this record is that Threshold is another excellent release from Cloud Rat, masters of DIY, and one of the most interesting grindcore projects out there at the moment. So again, 4 stars out of 5, and with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I will see you guys in the next one.